So with that said, today we'll discuss about the HANA security. Okay, it's a very important topic, not for us, but so HANA security. Same as like in SAP, we have the security, right? Same also we will discuss about SAP HANA security. Security, we will discuss the SAP HANA security. So what is mean by security? Anyone? What is mean by security? Why security is required here? So anyone, why security is required? Data, especially for the database level, why security is required? For SAP level, we have the security, right? Then why again security is required for the HANA? Why again security? Why security?
To protect data from hackers.
Okay, so excellent. To protect the to protecting the important data from unauthorized access. Okay, so this will ensure standards compliance meet as a security standards. So each company, they have some security policies, they have some security strategies they have, right? So if you don't have access, if you don't have user, what will happen? So we cannot log in, and we will log in with a single user, all persons. So if some person one deleted, we cannot try find out who deleted what, right? If you have the individual user ID, we can track it. So who deleted? So what is that user? So we can track it. So that's the reason the HANA security is for to protecting the data and also to follow the company standards, compliance, meet as per the security in the organization. So we need to meet the compliance. And also HANA provides facility. One of the facility is providing like multi-tenant data that we know. We already discussed in the starting of the HANA is the multi-container, one system DB, one tenant DB. So can be created in the single HANA system. Like in one of HANA box, we can create the multiple tenant databases, which means if you have the access to the system DB, so can we use the same? If we have access the system DB, can we connect to the tenant DB as well? No, why? Because each database there is a separate security management. Each tenant, each database there is security management, which means if you create the user in system DB, you can only access the so system DB only, not the tenant databases. So that's the reason each database you have the security. Each database means either the system DB or tenant DB. We have the security management. So let's draw some important information what HANA is providing. So we know why security is important means to protecting the unauthorized data, to protecting the unauthorized data from the to protecting the unauthorized data from the database, and also to follow the organizational standards. So we need a security, you need a user ID and follows. So SAP HANA provide provide the following security features. These are some security features are available. So right, what is the HANA? So everyone having in mobile, we have some mobility, password lock mechanism, fingerprint live face recognition, so PIN, password, like that we have the mechanisms, right? These are the mobile. In the laptop also we have the fingerprint and the user ID password authentication, basic mechanisms are available. So here also in HANA also we have some security mechanisms. One is like user and role management, user and role management. The second one is the authorization. So you have the access, but you don't have the authorization means the particular access to the particular object. So you have the access, but we have to restrict it. So system wide, you cannot have the access. Why? Because we have the in the development team. In the HANA also we have the development teams are available. Those people are called the modelers, modeling. So they will do that one. So if you have access to the modeling, then what is the difference between the SAP basis person and SAP modeling person, right? There should be some difference, right? We have to perform each and every person role, right? So that role, who will create means that role will define it, who we are. And also the authorization also will restrict it. So authorization also will restrict that one. So now then authentication, it should be authentication future. Okay, authentication. These are the futures Anna providing. Then next one is the encryption of the data. Encryption of the data. Encryption of the database means encryption of data in data folder or log folder. Why data folder slash and a data folder? So data folder is available, in the OS level, operating system level. So data, all the data as part of the delta merge, data is not only storing in so main memory, one copy of data storing into the so data folder like persistency layer, that is called the persistency layer, right? The persistency, that data folder layer is called the so persistency layer. One name is called the persistency name as well. One name is called the persistency layer. So that data folder also we can encrypt it, which means it cannot be readable. Suppose some person not only hacked from the HANA studio, he hacked the data from the OS level, then he can open the data folder, he can run the some queries, then he can view the data, right? We can view the transaction, right? He can do some amendments, right? So that type of encryption we can perform it. So encryption of data in data folder. Okay, next one is the same like encryption of data in network layer. In the network also we have to do encryption. Network also we have to do the encryption. Why? Because data is coming from HANA Studio, from application to HANA Studio. So sorry, HANA database it is storing, right? HANA Studio, it is HANA database, it is storing application to HANA Studio. Suppose, like, let me draw one small diagram, you can understand what is this exactly. So this is the SAP application layer. So this is the presentation layer. This is the application layer. This is the database layer. SAP is the three-tier architecture, right? So we have the presentation layer and application layer. This is the SAP application. This is the DB layer, database layer, where the data stores in the form of tables and columns, right? So here to here you are sending the data. Here you will do the transactions. The transaction will be saved into the so database level. Database level. Here to here, how it is coming? This is in the one area. This is in the one area separate. So through network only, this is coming to the database level, right? If someone hacks the system in the here, if someone hacks the system here, then you can see the data, right? You can theft the data, right? Another person can hack the data as well. So now we know nowadays how many ways the data is getting hacked by hackers, right? So even network layer and operating system layer, database layer, so many ways we can protect. We have to protect the data many ways. So that's why this is the one of the future in the network layer also HANA is providing, and persistency layer, OS level. These are the authentication and user management. So these are the futures which HANA is providing to us, right? This is the way. So coming to the now we will discuss each and everything. We will discuss about the each and every point we will discuss now. What is exactly? So okay, we will discuss now. Any questions till now regarding this one? Okay. So now HANA user and role. So that is the one of the first topic is HANA subtopic. This is the first topic. HANA user and role management. HANA user and role management. The first one is the SAP HANA role and so user. HANA role and user. Okay. So what is this SAP HANA role and user? So HANA role configuration depends upon the architecture. That is depends upon the architecture. If you have the three-tier architecture, we have the two-tier architecture as well. Three-tier architecture means, as we discussed, right? So application layer, database layer, we have the top of the this one. In architecture, security features, so it will be encrypt. The data will be encrypted. Data will be encrypted. The end user cannot directly access to the database server. So if you don't have access, what happens? The users who are using the data, they cannot access the database layer. That's why we need a user and user management. User management is required here. User ID and password we required here. So if you see here Hana Studio, if you are connecting to the Hana Studio means what you required? You need the user ID and password. User ID and password is required. So can we connect without user ID and password? I am logging off now. So can I connect without user ID and password? Am I connecting? No, right? Without the authentication mechanism, without user ID and password, we cannot connect it. Without this one, we cannot connect it. Without this one, we cannot connect it to the our HANA databases. We cannot connect to the our HANA databases. Okay. Without this one, we cannot connect to the HANA databases. This is the one of the thing. That's why user ID and password and related roles are required to access the HANA database through Studio or through Cockpit, through operating system level, anywhere. If you want to access the something, you need a password. If you want to access your mobile, you need a user ID and password. Password you require, fingerprint mechanism. If you want to access some net, your router, you need a password. If you want to access the something like something device, smart devices, you need a some passwords, user ID is required. So nowadays it's common, user ID and password. Without this one means so public means so anyone can access, anyone can do anything, right? That is the thing we are putting. Even when you are logging to our servers, we are putting the user IDs and passwords we are creating. Why? Because the particular person, he can log in and he can do his own something like that. He can practice it, right? If you have the one access for all, if you don't have access, what happens? You cannot log in, right? That's why we need the user and user management and user and roles are required here. So here, what type of users we have to create it to access to HANA database? We have the two types of users, SAP, two types of users we have. One is the technical user. One is the technical user. Means how many users we can create it. One is the technical. In SAP, when you go to the SU01 transaction code, there we can create the user. Either dialog user, batch user, service user. There are types of users are there, right? Here also we have the users. That is called the DBA user. Technical users means DBA users. So it user is who directly work with the HANA database with necessary privileges. So and also user then these users don't get deleted. These users don't get deleted from the database. These users don't get deleted from the database. These users, they don't get deleted from the database. These are the technical users. These are the technical users in the database. Technical users, which means we. Now I opened the HANA Studio. I am logging with system user. Then the password I am entering, just click on the OK button, which means I am able to log into the HANA database with the system user, technical user with the required privileges. Then I am able to access the all the tabs and everything I am able to accessing now. I am able to access the all the tabs and everything I am accessing now, which means I have access to the I have the admin access to the all the area. All the area I have the admin access. All the area I have the admin access. That's why I'm a technical user. My user does not get deleted until I delete it. Okay, these users are created in the administration tasks, creating the some creating the some granting the some privileges, database objects, some accessing the data, everything by default. Like we will get the system sys repo. These are the users. These are the technical users. These are the administrator users. This will be created sys system and sys repo, and these are the access releases, AF related repo user statistics. These are the so technical users. These are the technical users. So these are the administrator users. These users are created by default by system during the installation. Have we created any users as of now? No, right? So it's created automatically. Why means as part of the system creation. So these users are created. So that's why during the installation time, we'll give the password of the system user, password of the operating system level user. That's why we are providing it. Why? Because first time when we are logging into the system, we have to provide the user ID and passwords. We have to provide it. So the second one is like database user or real user, right? The second one, these are the technical users. Technical users means win to perform the administration task. And this one, next one is the so database user. So database are so real user, real user. These are the two types of users as we discussed, right? So these are, next one is the so database are real user. Real user means this user, he will work on the HANA database, need a database user. The person who wants to work in the HANA database, he need a user. But so only the specific area. Suppose like, so here also the specific area. Suppose you want to only the creation access. You want to only access the objects. You don't want to administration access and everything. So that time we can segregate the these users to two users again. So the database user or real users, we can segregate two users. One is the standard user, and second one is the so restricted users. Okay, restricted users. Okay, so technical user, the DBA user. So we can the like these are the DBA users means administrator users. He can perform anything. He can perform the development, he can perform the administration, he can stop, he can delete everything. So normally basis team are the technical users, means DBA users. We are the DB administrators. So few users, they require the few users, they require the so few require they require the only some access only, some authorization. He don't want to all. He don't want only specific table, specific data he required, specific data he required. That's why we need the standard user or and restricted user. These are the two types of the they have segregated like so standard user or restricted user. So standard user means these users normally, if I talk about the what is mean by standard users, these users can create own objects, own schema. You can read the data from the system. So these are the standard users. So you can create the standard users, right? So which means he can create the objects, some schemas. He can read the data from the system views, standard data. So these are the standard. These are the standard. Normally, the public role. There are some roles actually. The public role will be the role is public, which means he can just only read the data. The role is public row. So he can only access the. He can only so he can only access, he can only create the data, he can only create own schema. That standard users, normal standard users. So restricted users means restrict users means no SQL access via console. So no SQL access. We don't provide any access to the him. So just if the privilege is required to use only specific application, then we can provide through the role. We can provide to the role. So we are not providing to the any SQL query access, not access. Restricting user cannot create anything in the database. User cannot read, cannot create the data, cannot view any data. So you just user connect to the database through HTTP or some ODBC, you can connect it, you can access the some data. Just only you can access the data, you can view the data. Those are the restricted only view. Just simply I'm creating like only view. Why? Because we are assigning the restricted role to that person. So suppose one person, another company person, he asked me, please provide the access to the data. But we can provide the access to the data, but only the restricted role we can assign to the user, we can provide it. Why? Because if I assign the standard one, then we can view, we can create whatever we want, we can do it, right? But then in this case, data is so exposing into the other company as well. Our data, our company data exposing into other company as well. So to avoid this one, so we can create the so restricted users. So that's why the database user, real users, they can real users, there are two types. One are the standard users and restricted users. So these are the this one. So normally each administrator, which means we are the administrator. We can create the user, we can delete the user, we can create the role, we can grant the role, we can reset the password, we can activate all these things, we can perform it. All these things we can perform it. Right? Got it? Any questions regarding this one? Users roles and users, how many types of users? Still we have not discussed how to create the users, how to create the role and everything. Just just theoretically we are discussing what is this and everything. Okay, so now we'll discuss about, now we'll discuss about the, so next parts like authorizations, authentication. These things we will discuss. Authorization and authentication we'll discuss now. So what do you mean by authentication? Right? What do you mean by authentication? So we have roles and management, we discussed user and role, everything we discussed. What do you mean by authorization, authentication? Authorization and authentication. Authorization and authentication. Authorization. Authorization. What do you mean by authorization? Okay. So you understand, right? This Hana role and user, the first point. The next one is the SAP Hana authentication, SAP Hana authentication part. So this is for the Hana authentication part is for the, so Hana authentication part is for the, so Hana authentication. This Hana authentication, what is mean by authentication? So one user, if any user identifies who is accessing to the HANA database, he verified to the, so authentication, which means the password. So the pass through based through passwords, he can access to accessing to the authentication, means through password, through user ID and password is authentication. He is authenticating to the HANA database. Same as like SAP HANA also support the many authentication method. One is the single sign-on. Without user ID password also we can log in as per the organizational identity provider with user ID password, which we are using now. So there are multiple authentication methods. So those authentication methods we'll discuss now. What are the authentication methods? One is the user ID and password. With user ID password you can log in. Second one is the SSO. So that means authenticate. Third one is the Kerberos mechanism. Okay, Kerberos mechanism. Kerberos mechanism is different type of protocols we will use it. Some JDBC, ODBC clients. So HTTP. So this one, right? Kerberos mechanism. The fourth one is the SAML mechanism, security assertion markup language. The third one is the certification, logon tickets, CCP. So logon tickets, through logon ticket, to logon certificate, we will log into the SAP. Then through logon tickets, SAP logon assertion ticket. The third one is the X.509 certificate. X.509 certificates. Through the certificates, now each user they have some certificate, X.509 certificate. These are the system certificate. So this we have to create it. This we have to do the creation. That's why I'm not going in detailed way. But how many ways we can authenticate it? One is like through HANA Studio, I can authenticate with the user ID and password. I can authenticate it, right? So second one is the when you are logging through the browser, just user ID and password. Sometimes what happens when you are logging through browser, it won't ask user ID and password. Just it will ask the certificate. Then you can use the certificate based authentication, SAML mechanism. So these are the authentication methods are available. So these are the different procedures to create each and every authentication. That depends upon the company. Few companies they will prefer like user ID and password. That is the best option. We will create the user ID and password. They will log in. Few companies there is SSO. Why? Because they have centralized single sign-on. SSO means single sign-on. Kerberos mechanism. Some files at OS level we have to do that one. The Kerberos mechanism. Some directly from the JDBC, ODBC clients, so we can use it. So SAML mechanism. So then SAP logon tickets, X.509 certificates. These many ways we can log into the authentication. Same as like means in our mobile phone. If I take example in mobile, now we are logging through user ID and password, some fingerprints, some face mechanism, then face recognizer mechanism, then voice recognizer system. Like many ways, right? We can authenticate to our mobile or our laptops. Do you agree or not? You agree, right? So in our mobile, how many waves we are logging to the our system, our mobile, our smart device? So how many ways we are logging? Through user ID and password, to pin, to next, what is that? Through face recognized. One is the finger recognized. So like that, we have the many ways, we have the authentication mechanism, right? Same also here. So these many ways SAP Hana database is providing to us. So either anyone you can use it, either anyone you can use it, depends upon the organizational procedures, different of the organizational procedures. So don't go in deeply, but I am explaining the some deeply. But why? Because you are, since you are new to Hana, you need to practice it. You should understand the this roles, users. You have to digest all these things. So that's why. So if you just prepare it, I will explain it. But still, we have concepts are there. I will explain it. But still, prepare it. At least the technical terms you can remember it. So how many types of users are there? One is the technical user and the database user. The database user, again, we have the two types: standard user and restricted users. So how many authentication mechanisms SAP is providing to us? These are the 6 authentication mechanisms SAP is providing to us. So okay, then that is the authentication. Then that is completed. What is the next one? Authorization. All these points will come now. So authentication, then authorization. Next point is the authorization. So what do you mean by authorization, right? SAP. So Hana authorization. You have access, but you don't have, so you have access, but you don't have that much of authorization to view. So that is called the authorization. You have access, you have authenticated to the database, you have user ID and password. Now third step, authorization, but you need the authorization to access it, right? So that is the reason you need some privileges. Authorization is called the some privileges you required database to access the some database objects, some data, you need some privileges. The privileges can be granted to the user indirectly. So we have to provide the privilege. We means either the technical user or standard, so administrator, admin user. We have to provide the privileges to the users. Okay, so that's we have to provide the privileges to the user. So what is mean by this authorization means whenever users try to access the object in the HANA database, HANA system perform the HANA authorization check, whether this user is valid or this user has the respective privileges, authorization to, so to enter into the system, everything, it will check it out. It will check it out. Suppose example, if I take example, you are entering into the one apartment, right? You are entering into the apartment. Before entering into the an apartment, you have the security checks, right? The security person will check you whether you have the proper ID card, you are the proper person, you are the authorized person or not. So you access. Somehow you managed the security, then you went to the inside the apartment. Then you have authenticated. You have the user, you authenticated inside to user ID password, you have authenticated, right? You have authenticated inside the, but do you have the authorization to go inside of that flat, inside of that room? Do you have the, so authorization? You need that type of authorization, right? Just you have only display access, you don't have authorization. So here authorization also, not only user, not only you authenticated to the database, you need authorization as well. So just you authenticated, so every user can authenticate it, every user can log in, but you need the authorization, right? You need the authorization to perform these privileges. Like suppose I am opening this one, I am opening this tab, I am opening this tab, I am opening the diagnosis files, I am opening this one, means you need the authentication, right? So okay, let's create one user now. Okay, I'm creating one user, expanding the system DB, right click on the system user. Then you have the two types of users. As I mentioned, we have the so standard user and restricted users. So just click on the new user. So I just created the new user here. So I'm creating Ravi. Ravi is the one of the user I'm creating here. So the password I'm entering, like suppose, so just I'm entering the one password, initial password I'm entering here. So then forced to change the password, yes. But here I have not authorized, I have not assigned any roles, any privileges. So any role I have not assigned. just only public. By default, public will be created. Just click on the deploy button, F8. Your user has been created. You can see your user has been created. Ravi user has been created. If you expand this users tab, you see Ravi user has been created. Now you can log in. You can log in with with Ravi user. Ravi user, I am logging. We as of now system user we login in. So now I am logging with Ravi user. Okay, but not assigned. The authentication is happening now. Now authentication is happening through user ID and password. My authentication, a user ID I have created, right? As we speak, user technical user, one of the standard user I created, Then authentication is happened through user ID and password. You can also use the SSO, Kerberos, SAML. These are all many authentication methods. You can use it, right? So you can this way, user ID and role. These are the futures, right? So then here main user ID, password, role, authorization, authentication. These four are very, very important. These three are very important for the to handle the HANA security here. So same as like I authenticated now. My user password is changed. Now I have created my own user. I logged in with my user now. So okay, I will double click it here. Why? Because to open the administration prompt, I open. Am I opening here? No, right? Why? Because you cannot open the administrator editor. You don't have the required privileges, which means you have authenticated. You are logged into the system. You have the user ID and password. You have the author. You have the but you don't have the privileges. You don't have the required privileges. You don't have the required privileges, which means you don't have the required privileges, which means you cannot access the database anything from here. Just you have the database only. You cannot create. Suppose I want to delete something. Right click and delete. Will you delete? No, right? So if you want to access the administrator privileges, you want to access something here. So will you access? No, right? So why? So suppose right click, go to the backup and recovery, you open it, nothing. You open lifecycle management, you open, nothing. So administration, you open, nothing. You need a access. You need a access. So let me open the lifecycle management, then platform lifecycle management. Open this one. Will you open? You open. But will you log in? No. Authentication, will you log in? Suppose I will use the Ravi, my new password, I will enter it. I have the access through browser I am logging. Will I access? No, right? It will give the error message. You don't have the required authorization. Like that will provide it. See here, it is not authenticating. Still it is asking the user ID and password it is asking. If I give if I give system, then it will authenticate. If I give system, it will authenticate, but system also require some authorization. That's why it's keep on asking the user ID and password. User authentication is required. First of all, user authentication is required. Not only user authentication is required here. So that's why. So not only you authenticated, not only you should authenticate, not only you have user, you need the third thing is called you need authorization as well. You need the authorization as well. You need the authorization as well. You required. So authorization also you required. Now let's discuss about this authorization. SAP authorization. SAP HANA authorization. Why? Because I have created the user, authenticated through user ID and password. Authenticated through user ID and password. I authenticated, but I am unable to access anything here. I am unable to access anything here. I am unable to access anything from here. I am unable to access anything here. Why? Because so I don't have the required permissions, required authorization. I don't have anything. Just only display access I have. Only display access I have. All right. This way we can restrict it not to open the other things. Why? Because administrator tabs required for the only basis person. So we can provide the only administrator access to this person. So where can I do that one? Where can I assign this administrator and everything? You can see here privileges. You have the privilege. Now we are discussing about the privileges. Okay, privileges. Ana privileges are types of privileges we have. System privileges, object privileges, system privileges, and object privileges. Then analytical. Let me show you that one. System privileges, object privileges, then analytical privilege. So while others join here, I will write the privileges, right? System privileges. The next one is called the object privileges. The third one is called the system privileges, object privileges. The third one is called the analytic privileges. The fourth one is called the package. So package privileges, the package privileges. So the fifth one is called the application privileges. Some application privileges. Sometimes during the interview, they may ask you the questions, how many types of privileges we have in the system. So we have the six types of privileges, six types of privileges. One is the last one is the privileges on privileges on user, this many. So types of privileges are available here. So here you can see so you can enter anything you can enter it. So either you can create the separate role by combination of the all these privileges, or just you can assign the one system privilege. Suppose even I am unable to open the this one, right? Now I will assign it this privileges. So this privileges. So we have these many privileges we have. Let me show you. Let me show you here the privilege creations, the privilege roles creations, and everything we'll discuss. Resetting the passwords, activations, everything. So we will discuss now. We will discuss all these things. We will discuss now. The first one is called the system privileges. Normally you don't require this one. Why? Because it's like uh, pure security, Hana security, right? Pure Hana security. So the privileges, system privileges. Normally, this privilege will control the normal system activities. System privileges mainly for, so what privileges like creation, deletion, managing the user, monitoring the user, perform the backups, license, version, auditing. This many things we can perform using the system. Suppose if you just click on the plus symbol, here you have the already predefined privileges. Suppose you can adapt the admin, auditor read, backup administrator, so catalog. So all these things you have the administrator data admin. So encryption, root key, export. These are all the privileges. If you have access to these privileges, then only you can do that one. Suppose I have assigned the monitor privileges to my user. My user, I have assigned the monitor privileges, which means now I can open the studio. I can monitor something. I can monitor the something. Why? Because I have the monitor admin. I can only monitor the systems. I can only monitor the system. Like that, we have many things. Catalog, DB administrators, relays. We have many things are available here. We have many things are available here. Now I opened the administrator. I can access all the tabs now, right? I can delete something now. I can delete the something now in the database level itself. Suppose I will delete this one as well. I cannot delete now. So I can open, I can delete, I can do something now. I can enable the trace. Everything I can do that one. Why? Because so that related privilege I have assigned the catalog read and monitor admin. That privileges I have assigned to them. That is called the system privileges, which means in the system you can create the schema, you can delete the schema, you can managing the other users, you can delete the other users, you can create the other users. So whatever you want, you can do it. So there's just some severe roles are available. That privileges you can assign to yourself. If you want to perform the backup, you need the backup admin. If you want to perform the auditing, you need the auditing admin read. If you want to perform the some audit something like, if you want to perform something like remote data source creation, you need these privileges. Like that, you can assign the number of privileges. Just click on the deploy button. That privileges will be assigned to yourself. Right? So that is the privileges. What do you mean by object privileges here? Object privileges are the SQL privileges, which means that is used to give the authorization to respective object only. You are not, it's not providing to the screens, it's not providing to the everything, just only the specific data object, specific object. I want to access to the specific table. In the specific table, you want to access to the only specific table. Then in this case, this object privileges are SQL privileges, only SQL queries, some SQL privileges used to read and modify the object. So to access the database user, so for user, if you want to access the database object, you need the some database privilege on that particular schema. That schema, you need that privileges. So that type of privileges we have to access. So some objects, some table level data, if you want to access, you need this privileges you required, this privileges you required, this privileges you have to assign it. So these are the schemas. So if you assign the access to the schema, then you can only access to the these things. You can only access to this anything you can assign to the so that respect to user. If you want to alter, if you want to create, if you want to delete, it's high level. Don't worry. Just want to explain, just explaining about the each and everything. Why? Because I'm unable to explain assign it to as well. Why? Because I don't have authorizations. That's why even I too don't have access to assign the privilege. That's why I'm getting this error. I'm getting this error. To delete it. Next one is the analytical privileges. Analytical privileges are used to read, allow the read, access the specific models, specific data information model. So these analytical privileges are used to allow the read access on the data of some data of the so information model. Some we have some models, the calculation views, attribute view, analytical views, privilege views. There are some use. So those things can be done by some development teams. So you no need to worry about that one. So just to so that's why I'm not just explaining very deeply. Just what is this? Simple. Okay. Types of privileges. These are the types of privileges. You can remember it. System, object, analytical, package, application, privilege. Okay. What do you mean by system privilege? What do you mean by object privilege? Object means specific schema, specific table, specific object you have to access it. Object means specific data. Analytical privilege means we have some privileges. So suppose analytical privileges, so which means only read the data, specific information model like called the attribute view, analytical view, calculation views. There are some views to read the data. So that analytical privilege you can assign to the user. Either anyone you can use it, either in this way, either you can use anything, either the system privilege or object privilege to access the data, anything you can assign it. But you have to assign either in this one, either anything you have to assign it. Don't keep it simply. Why? Because if you leave it, if you not assign, you cannot access anything. Same as like previously, just I authenticated, but I am unable to access anything. Why? Because I don't have the authorization. I don't have the privileges. Now privileges are assigned. I am able to access now, right? So this analytical privilege is like so analytical just read the data. Okay, just to read the data. The package privileges are used to the particular packages. So in the system, our development team, they will create some developments. So in the catalog or content, this tab is for the day. They can create the some packages, they can create it. Some packages they can create it. For this package, we want to access, we can assign that only can access to the only that particular package, you can access it. That particular package, you can access it. So that is called the package privilege. Who will create these packages? So development team create. Then who will assign this package roles to the users? So security administrator he can access, security administrator he can access to the so this person, right? So we are the basis administrator. Even though we are the administrator, but security is a vast area, which means we need more deep knowledge. So that's why I'm not telling like not giving more information on this one. Only whatever you know, only that information I am providing now. Okay. So just a package, only the specific package. What is mean by package means package is group. Like here, in the content provider, this you have the tabs, right? Catalog, content, provisioning, and security. Especially this tab is for the development person. So the development guy, he can create one dummy package, he can create it. The dummy package, he can create it. So he can create the one dummy package. For that package, he will assign the, for that package, he will assign the, so some analytical calculation, some procedures, he can assign it, some privileges, some calculation, he can create and he can assign it. So it's a very big procedure actually. It's a very big procedure. Security team knows about all these things. We are not purely so security, right? So that's why in-deep knowledge is required. Better to have the in-deep knowledge. But if you are confusing, just ignore it. If you are confusing, ignore it. Then application privileges. Application privileges are the revoked. So the application privileges are granted, revoked through the procedure, some grant revoke options. So suppose some you need some backup admin privileges, application privileges. So these some applications we have IDE applications, some backup applications. We have some applications in the database, access applications. You need specific permission. You need specific permission. Then we can use the specific permissions to the particular repository we can assign it. These are the application. The privilege on users. So you have other user, you want to same privilege you require for the this Ravi user as well. Then I attach to the system user, then deploy it. Whatever the system user have, same user will be provided to the Ravi. Why? Because it's removed. Why? Because it's not granted any privileges. So not granted any privileges. That's why even though I assigned and created, it's deleted. So this is for the list of privileges we have. Now let's start one by one how to create now users. How to create the users now. One general user. How can we create it? That you should aware of. So just open the Hana Studio and security tab here, roles, just click on the new user. Here I can create the one more user, Ravi1, I can create it. Then I can set the password here. I can set the password. You have to create the your own users. You can create it. Up to what is the valid till date and when he has to access. I want to access from tomorrow. Tomorrow onwards, you should access to tomorrow at the end of the day or 1 hour only you require the access. Then 1 hour only I assigned. Tomorrow, so you need access to the 6:36 to 7:36. Only 1 hour you require the access. Right? Only that type of only 1 hour I'm giving the access. If you want to end of the life, then you can remove this one. You can remove this one. End of the life means you can remove this one. So you can access everything. You can access the everything here. Okay, I will quickly complete this one. So you can see here roles, create new role. Here you can enter the user ID and the password. So some authentication mechanisms we have. So these are the authentication mechanism, user ID and password, Kerberos mechanism, X.509, SAML mechanism, or 50 certificate. So this one, but we have to create here. These things we have to create it. So, but we have the common user ID and password. We have created these things. By clicking this one, you have the access now. You have the access. Outside validity is period. Why? Because you have the when did you have the access? This one. Tomorrow only your account will be active, not today. Right? Tomorrow only your account will be active. But even though it's deleted, outside validity period. Right? So it will be deleted. So now, so users creation we know. But what about the roles creation here? We have the roles. Already roles are available here in the system. Already roles are available. By default, roles are available here. So just right click, just click on the new role. We can also create the new role. Role is collection of privileges. So this is the granted roles. Role is collection of privileges. You can create the collection of privilege. Instead of assigning the one privilege to this one privilege to this one. So okay, the basis role. I'm creating the basis role. The basis role is required the some monitoring, modeling, insert, catalog, read. He can access anything, right? That's why. So we can assign the some roles we can assign to that person like content admin, some modeling. You don't want to modeling, means developer, you want to monitoring. So what you required, basis team required. So still some other privileges, like what other privileges you required. So those things we can access to the, we can give to the. So this role, basis role I am assigning, basis role am I assigning here. Basis role Z underscore basis, one naming convention I am following, right? Z underscore basis, which means this role is dedicatedly for the basis team, right? So then if you want to assign the any system privileges, you can assign it. Suppose if you want to assign the object privileges, you can assign the object privileges. Just click on the OK button. Then so you have assigned, the grant role does not exist. You have assigned the content admin is not exist. That's why you are unable to access this one. Okay, so you have assigned the system privileges, object privileges, analytical privileges, you can access it. Once you done, then Ravi user can authenticate it. Only can access that role. When you are creating the new role, suppose when you are creating the new role, new user, when you are creating the new user, suppose like Ravi 3 I'm creating. Here you no need to assign all everything. Just to go to the granted roles. Here check anything like whatever we created the last Z basis. The Z basis role I can assign it. Just click on the this thing. So that you can access the that particular role. You can access the particular role. This is the roles creation. So instead of, so the role is called the collection of all these privileges. We can create as a one single role. We can create as a single role. Collection of. Okay, collection of. It's a standard mechanism. So collection of privileges that can be granted to the role. Okay, that will be granted to the users, that will be granted to the role. We can create that role, we can assign to the particular person directly, we can assign it. So basis team, whenever the tomorrow one more basis team is joining, directly we can go to the here, we can assign the Z basis role to that person. Like that, the security team, before ahead itself, they will create the development team one role, basis team one role, security one role, normal users one role. They will create the list of roles. Then they will create the user, they will simply assign the roles instead of going to the system privileges, just creation of this role for this one, doing this one, all the tabs he has to work and he has to assign. Doing this one, he can go to the generated roles, then assign the roles to that particular user, he can assign it. So that is the thing we can perform it, right? That is the role creation. Also, if you want to reset the password, just to suppose if you open this one, so Ravi 3, I want to reset the password. Just to open the Ravi 3 user, then you can enter the reset the password. Then you can reset the password as well. So then you can reset the password. You can also deactivate. You can also lock the user. You can also, the user has locked. The user has been locked here. Now you cannot access. Now you cannot access to the database. Why? Because your user has been locked. Suppose we want, we can see now. So Ravi user I created. Now welcome one system. What is the error message? We got it. User already exists in the folder. Sorry, Ravi 3. Username invalid, username and password. Invalid username and password. Invalid username and password. We got it, which means the user is locked, explicitly locked. If you want to unlock, here there is the option activate user. Then user got activated. Deactivate user. Reset the password. So resetting the passwords, activate, reactivate the users. So these are the things. The next one is the auditing. So it's very simple. Auditing is like HANA auditing. So suppose auditing. Tomorrow I will explain this one on auditing. Okay. But because it's already too late and also we discussed the much more today. So tomorrow I will explain this one. You guys practice it. You guys tomorrow what I required is you have to create your own users. Own users you have to create. Then you have to create some roles and own users you have to create. You have to log in with your own user only. You have to log in with your, how can I know, sir? How can you see whether I created the user? If I open the users tab, I will come to know whether what are the list of users he created. And also, if I go to here in the landscape tab, not only in the go performance tab, if I go to the sessions, I will came to know whether you logged into the system, you are doing something or not. I will came to know. Why? Because system user I opened, and also administrator user I opened. Then if you open the Nanda user or Arun user, so some other users, then you will get the list here, what you are doing here. So which user you connected here, and also what is the IP, what is the client, all these things it can be tracked here, which application you are using here, everything will be tracked. So what I am saying is you have to create your own user, then you have to connect to the HANA Studio, then that time, so I will come to know you have created your own user, you are logging into the HANA system, then you are monitoring something, right? That is the thing here. Okay, so I'm stopping here. Any questions from anyone today? So I know it's very hard